Om Namo Narayanaya, welcome back. We are working through the Maha Upanishad, and today we are starting part 5. Then I shall speak truly of the 7 steps of ignorance, 7 of wisdom. The stages between are countless and produced otherwise. Liberation is existence in spiritual condition. Lapse from it is the concept of I. Attributes like desire and hate, born of ignorance, are not for those who do not swerve from their nature as a result of the realization of pure consciousness. The fall from spiritual nature, the drowning of consciousness in mental matters, there is no other delusion, now or in the future, than this. The existence in spiritual nature is said to be the destruction of mental activity, being unaffected when the mind goes from object to object. The existence supreme in nature is remaining like stone, all ideation dying out, free from waking and sleep. That is one's own spiritual nature, which is not inert, the non-pulsating, placid mind, when the ego aspect is dead. Waking in seed state, simple waking, great waking, etc., the sevenfold delusion. When these combine among themselves, they become manifold. Hear of its nature. The first stage is the consciousness undesirable, pure condition, taking the name of mind, jiva, etc., which will come into existence. Waking, existing as potential, is said to be waking in seed. This is the new or first condition of consciousness. The waking state, second, after the new stage, the subtle concept I, mine, arising purely, this is waking non-existent earlier. The great waking, the broad gross concept arising in previous birth as I and mine. Then the waking dream, the kingdom of the mind, which has developed or not, as identifying oneself with these. Then the dream state. It is of many kinds, arising from the waking state in the form of 2 moons, shell, silver, mirage. The reflection by the awakened person, this was seen for only a short time, it will not arise. Because of it, seeing for long, it is not like the working state. Then there is the dream waking state, the inert condition of jiva, giving up the 6 conditions. The deep sleep is filled with future misery, in which condition the world is merged in darkness. The 7 stages have been spoken by me of ignorance. Each of these has hundreds of varieties with various splendors. By knowing the 7 stages of knowledge, one will not be submerged in the mire of illusions. Many schools speak variously of the stages of yoga, but only the following are acceptable to me. Liberation follows after 7 stages. The first stage of knowledge is auspicious desire. The second is reflection. The third is thinning of the mind. The fourth is attainment of sattva, then detachment. The 6th is reflection of objects. And finally, the last is turiya, their explanation. The wise say that the auspicious desire is the desire following detachment, meditation. Why do I remain like a fool, being looked upon by good people? Reflection is good activity after the practice of detachment in contact with scriptures and good people. Thinning of the mind is a condition where the attachment to sense objects is reduced by means of auspicious desire and reflection. Sattvapati is the mind in the pure sattva condition by the practice of the above 3 stages. The asamsakti stage is the developed condition, without even a trace of involvement, by means of the practice of the 4 stages. Padartha bhavana is the 6th stage, resulting from the 5 stages, delighting in the spirit firmly by the non-contemplation of objects, internal and external. The 4th transcendental condition, here being the 7th stage, is concentration on one's own nature, seeing no real difference by the long practice of the 6 stages. This is the stage of Jivan Mukti. The stage beyond the 4th is the stage of liberation without the body. Oh, those who have reached the seventh stage delight in the spirit. They do not drown in pleasure and pain. They do not, or not do, whatever is only relevant and minimal. They perform actions following the past, awaken, impelled by those nearby, like one waking from sleep. These seven stages can be known only by the enlightened, reaching which condition even animals, barbarians, etc., are liberated with or without the body, surely. Wisdom indeed is the breaking of the knot and the liberation, the dying of the delusion of mirage. But those who have crossed the ocean of illusion, they have reached the high position. And we will pause here on verse 42. So, a couple of thoughts came into my head while I was reading this. I've often seen, or actually I recently saw, which is why it's in my head, some guy on YouTube was going, yeah, I, read a few religious books over my life, never really paid attention, whatever, and used to be doing some music stuff, and then I was having a cup of tea on my back porch one Saturday afternoon, and I achieved enlightenment. So now I am a guru. And if you get on his Facebook page, which I did, all these random talks on from everything you can name, and suddenly he's an expert on all this religious stuff that he knows nothing about, really, and the people he's talking to know nothing about. But literally, according to him, he achieved enlightenment one day, and that was it. He's done. And I read something like this, where it says, you have to go through 7 stages, and you discover 7 stages. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. According to this book, and if we take this as the Word of God, or as spoken by someone who is connected to God, God is saying, through his messenger, you have to go through 7 stages. So when you see some person going, oh yeah, I just did it instantly, how do we reconcile that? How do we say, well, according to this, the great beings have to go through all these stages, but you didn't, so are you better than every guru out there, every teacher, every whatever? My thought has always been, and I've seen other people who've said this, like, suddenly I had a realization, and that's it, I'm done. And they supposedly now know everything about everything, but yet they don't. And if you push them enough, they'll show their ignorance. What I say is that you may have had a realization. Yeah, this fellow may have had some moment, but it wasn't enlightenment. It may have been some realization from some being saying, you need to take your life from here to there. I've had a couple of those, actually. I've had a couple moments that blow me away. But for me, I didn't go around saying, I'm enlightened now, that's it. What I said was, those were moments on a journey. That wasn't the end all. They were simply stepping stones to get me someplace else, or get me focused somewhere. And that's what these things are. You see, that may have been, for this kid, his first step out of 7, or whatever. But we have a tendency to we just want to get there and we're done. But I truly believe this book is saying the truth. It's in stages. You don't just suddenly get there. Even in Buddhism, they say, well, you could achieve nirvana simply in one moment. I give you a koan, like sound of one hand clapping. And if you understand the answer, boom, you're enlightened. They say that all the time. But what they kind of ignore was often this person who had that koan had also been studying Buddhism for 10 years or 20 years, or lived in a monastery, or was doing penance or something. So there was a build-up to that moment. And had they not done any of that, had they just gone to work, would they have had that moment of that enlightenment? Not necessarily. So yes, enlightenment happened, bang, instantly, but there was all this stuff that put that situation into play. So really, it was stages. We go to school. All of us go to school. Or anyone who's ever been to school. And if you've never been to school, you still know that school is a series of years. You learn this, and then this, and then this, and then this. A series of stages. You want to learn an instrument. Well, we'd all love to come out as some Steve Vai guitar player day one, or Buddy Rich drummer, or whoever, Chaco on bass. You can't learn that in one day. It'd be awesome if you could, but it takes time. I know, I'm a bass player, and I've had to spend actual time studying. And when I didn't learn anything. My skills didn't really get better. You learn music theory in stages. And yes, you can sometimes shortcut stuff. But to become a great musician, it doesn't happen in one day. You learn it in stages. You build up your skills, your knowledge, and your playing. Yet, when we talk about religion, there's young people who go, oh, I achieved enlightenment sitting on the back porch with a cup of tea. Really? So, essentially, that's the only thing in the world that doesn't require stages? I mean, even think about it, or this example. You get a new job. You don't learn everything about that new job in one day. You learn it over years or time or months or whatever. To be a doctor, you have to go to school. You have to take additional classes. Everything requires learning. But when we deal with religion, no, instantly you can know everything. Really? Really? According to this book, what I just read, you have stages that you go through. And we've seen these stages mentioned in other Upanishads. It's not instant. Just like life, just like everything, you go through stages. All the great sages did. So, when you see someone who goes, instant, I'm instantly there, yeah, I think you should doubt those folks. I'm sorry. You should say, yeah, maybe they're just on a stage. But don't go, hey, you're my guru now, and you're really great because you had a moment. Because according to the scripture, that's not how it works. Alright, I kind of rambled and got off on some tangents there, but that's kind of a topic I get upset about, because you have a lot of these people who are out there going, I suddenly achieved something, and they're actually bringing a bad name to religion. For me, they're the New Age, Hindu, Buddhist, whatever, equivalent of a Christian televangelist. They come off as fake, they come off as ignorant, they come off as just crying out for attention more than anything. And it hurts. And it hurts. The everything. How can you take a religion seriously when these are the folks representing it? And then you see real teachers, like real teachers, and you're like, yeah, I mean, there's you, and then there's Ramana Maharshi. We're supposed to keep both of you equal and treat both of you equal? It's just like, yeah, whatever. So, anyways, that's my rant. We'll pick up on the rest of this on the next video. Please feel free to continue this conversation, as I always say. And thank you for watching. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.